Silverwolf is a very interesting character. With her release came a whole bunch of new interaction with the game mechanics. In this video, I'm going to do a deep analysis, sort of Silverwolf's kit. First off, we have her basic attack. It deals damage to an enemy. Moving on, we have her skill, Allow Changes. Now this is Silverwolf's big thing. It allows her to implant an elemental weakness to an enemy and inflict a resistance threat debuff of the implanted element and an all resistance threat on top of that. The first point I want to mention is how the elemental implant works. It is not random. It will always implant a weakness not already present on an enemy, based on the elemental types present on our team. For example, let's take a look at this guy right here. He has a wind, imaginary, and physical weakness. And I'm bringing Donghung, Welt, Natasha, and of course Silverwolf. Now, Silverwolf's quantum type is the only weakness type that this guy doesn't have. So, if I try to implant a weakness on this guy, it will always implant the quantum weakness because it doesn't already have it. So what happens when there are two or more elements on our team that the enemy doesn't have a weakness to? What will happen is the skill will randomly implant one of the element that isn't present on the enemy's weakness. Two elements not present means 50-50 chance for each element, and three elements not present means 33% chance for each element. So the chance of implanting is not relevant to how many enemies in the team that has a certain element. Like, let's say the enemy doesn't have fire and quantum weakness. You are using Silverwolf, which is quantum, and the other three members are fire. The chance is not going to be 75% fire implant and 25% quantum implant, but it will be 50-50 on both fire and quantum implants. So it's all about the number of elements present. Next, I want to talk about something I found to be rather fascinating. This is me using the skill. Now, if you would direct your attention over here, you can see that the debuff is applied before the skill does damage. This is a little something I'd like to call ODOR, or Order of Operations. Not because Star Rail players probably doesn't bait. Now, the ODOR has a straight line. We'll call it the timeline. In the timeline, there's the weakness implant and the all rest thread occurring in the same column. Then in the next column, the damage happens. And then after that, the bug from Silverwolf's talent happen, and also the Aether Coat debuff if you have her 5-star light cone. All of them count as separate debuffs as you can see, but the interesting thing comes from the interactions this has from the fact that two debuffs are applied before the attack hits. Well, considering that you did successfully inflict the debuffs because, effect resistance exists. So far, there are three things to make note of. Number 1. If we implant a quantum weakness, when the attack hits, it will reduce the enemy's toughness. Number 2. It will increase Silverwolf's skill damage due to elemental resistance threat, even more if the implanted weakness is quantum. Number 3. It will fulfill the requirements of certain things that require attacking a debuffed enemy. Examples of number 3 would be Pela's Light Cone, Good Night and Sleep Well, which would mean by the time the attack hits, it already gives 2 stack of damage boost because there are 2 debuffs, totaling 48% damage boost at Superimposition 5. Or Welt's Light Cone, which just requires the enemy to be debuffed in general. Unfortunately, it doesn't satisfy the requirement of the 12% increased crit rate for Silverwolf's Light Cone, because of the third debuff, which is the bug, occurs after the attack. Silverwolf has one more interesting trace about her skill, that her skill decreases the enemy's all-type resistance by an additional 3% if the enemy already have 3 or more debuffs. So in terms of ODOR timeline, the first time around you use the skill, it is not possible to apply this trace because it comes before the debuffs are even applied. So this trace only comes into effect the second time for the second time onward that you use Silverwolf's skill. Whew, that was a lot to talk about. Thankfully, the next abilities in the kit isn't too complicated. Next up, we have her ultimate, which deals damage and reduces the enemy's defense at the same time. The damage and the defense reduction occurs in the same column of the ODOR timeline. Therefore, the damage is boosted because the enemy's defense is already reduced by the time the damage goes through. Of course, this also comes with its own interesting interactions. Oh, and also, did you know that it is counted as its own separate debuff even if the current buff implanted is the defense break buff? Such as with the event Light Cone. Since the Light Cone requires us to attack defense broken enemies to regenerate energy, that means by using the ultimate alone, we already refunded a part of the energy. That interacts especially well with her E1, since the more debuff the enemy has, up to 5, when you use your ultimate, it will refund 7 energy for each debuff the enemy has. If you use her 5-star Light Cone along with her E1, as long as you successfully apply all debuff with your skill first, then you use your ultimate, you will be guaranteed to be refunded the maximum amount. Also, Whales Rejoice. E6 also increases damage by 20% per debuff, stacking up to 5 debuffs. By the time you use your skill and ultimate, again, if you successfully apply all debuff, it will have the maximum amount of damage bonus. Of course, that is considering that you use her 5-star Light Cone for the Eater Coat debuff. Next, we have her talent, which creates one of 3 types of status break bugs every time she attacks. This includes her basic skill, and ultimate. Each of her bugs count as separate debuffs, and of course, the trace that extends the bug's durations and allow her to inflict a bug when she breaks the enemy's weakness. Overall, it's pretty simple. And then finally, we have her technique. Now, this is quite self-explanatory. Outside of battle, she deals damage to the enemy preemptively, and then reduces their toughness bar regardless of their type weakness, and if they get weakness broken, they get entangled according to quantum weakness break effect. Very simple. So yeah, that's basically Silver Wolf's kit. Hopefully you found this video to be somewhat informative. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you feel like I missed anything, since I feel like there's always more to her than it seems, and I love her for it. She is perfection, and I'm not saying that because I see her as the perfect gamer girl GF. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome. This is a somewhat long video, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch it till the end. If you found the video helpful or entertaining, leave a like and subscribe. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.